because they can't maintain themselves in the new soil environment that we've established. Now, there are companies that are developing strains that they feel are going to be tolerant to that residual glyphosate and also be competitive. I've had some really high hopes over the years, and I think there's tremendous potential there, but if you're growing your legumes, especially in your transition period from conventional to organic, one of the things that you want to look at is making sure you've got that nitrogen fixation functional, that symbiotic relationship. And it's going to vary with soil. We have soils that are very difficult to establish. In a project I had in Argentina, took us 4 years of very heavy inoculation before we got our first nodule on soybean. Just very difficult to undertake some persistence to get that inoculation or that change that soil biology again.
Well, Dr. Hewer, your information and your portrayal of glyphosate has just been wonderful and overwhelming, and so way too much information. But if you were to give us a take-home message that we can pass along when we're talking about organic farming versus conventional farming, and what kind of message can we give out from your information here? What do you think that would be?
You got the light at the end of the tunnel. I'd encourage you to promote it all you can. You have some strings attached to that I don't understand why they're there. Scientifically, they don't make a lot of sense to me, but maybe because of my small circle of understanding. But it's the best that we have to go with. And certainly, it's kind of like you read with the Passover. Some of our greatest blessings are the things that pass us by, not necessarily the things that we receive. Some of us are going to be recognized more for our scars than our medals. But the things that you don't have to experience, that others are, is a blessing to you. But you are limited in some of the other things that you could do just because you're trying to maintain a system that doesn't get corrupted. And it would be easy to corrupt. And you see that in many ways. And you're trying to maintain the integrity of the system. And have to take, or at least in the process right now, you take some hits in some other ways that affect your perhaps full potential that you would have. It makes the management skills more critical for you. It's one of the things that we see with the reason why farmers were willing to take a 12% reduced yield with the genetically engineered crops, according to Dr. Charles Benbrook, just because it was simple. Looks great. You don't have that stray weed popping up your eye. You sit next to your neighbor in church and kind of have that little pride. But by golly, I got that last weed. He was the last enemy that I had. Not realizing that there's some blessings that come from some of that diversity. And if you listen to Dr. Clapperton, of how it's a matter of learning how to manage that ecology in a more effective manner. We can always do better. One thing I learned as a private in the Army is your hole's never deep enough. And you always keep digging. But I also learned as a scientist that when you find yourself in a hole, there's no need to keep digging. And that's what a lot of those in the conventional program haven't realized yet. So we say, well, we've lost a powerful tool with weed resistance. So we're going to add another toxin with 2,4-D or dicamba tolerance. We're just going to keep that cycle going. And in that process, that's what we're just continuing to dig as far as all the problems that we already know of. And can go there. We've created super weeds. Jessica Sheffer in her PhD thesis was at Purdue on her defense, when she gave her defensive thesis. She said, well, if susceptibility to disease is the mode of action for glyphosate, we should be able to nullify glyphosate's activity by just providing a fungicide. So she took the 5 common glyphosate-resistant weeds in Indiana, and she looked at the various pathogens that are involved in that mode of action, the Pythium and Phytophthora. Said, well, Ridamil does a good job of controlling those, so if I apply Ridamil, I should be able to, if glyphosate is killing the plant, I should be able to kill the plant in spite of the Ridamil. She had another fungicide for Fusarium, one for Rhizoctonia. She found with all 5 of those resistant weeds that as soon as she added the fungicide, all she got was a growth regulator effect. It would stun it temporarily, and then the plant would take off once those minerals were restored. Couldn't kill any of it, even at 10 times the rate of glyphosate. And sterile soil, there isn't any difference between a susceptible weed and a resistant one. So that you see that mechanism, but you see the interaction with the nutrients that impacts all of our production area because it affects the whole thing. There are lots of demonstrations to show that toxic effect there. But there are some things you can do in that transition. It's a matter of providing the nutrients, recognizing that there's been a compromising of the system. Use your tissue test and your soil test and your knowledge of your production environment and optimize your system. Look at the biological remediation. If you're transitioning, look at those ways to keep it immobilized and give it a chance for biological degradation on time. And if you're not transitioning, for Pete's sakes, look at a lot more judicious use and alternatives, because there's some excellent alternatives. One of our seed companies in Indiana showed that if you, even with the Roundup Ready corn, that if you use a different and alternative herbicide to glyphosate, you increase your yield 25%. There are some alternatives much better than glyphosate. They just take a little more management. You can't just squirt them and run. Say, well, I've accomplished that process. Let me get down and just kind of summarize if I can. Marion's getting nervous here. Apologize. Hope I haven't abused you too badly. But I had a neighbor that lost her husband 14 years ago and kind of became lonely. Kids noticed that she was lonely, even though they came in. It doesn't replace that. And suggested that she get a pet. She thought about it and decided that that might help. She could have a little companionship. Went over to the pet store and explained the situation to the pet store owner. And took her by the arm, led her to the back of the pet store, and showed her this beautiful Brazilian parrot. Said, "This guy is exactly what you need." Said, "He'll talk your leg off, keep you company, give you something that you can kind of share your time with. So she bought the parrot, took it home, came back the next morning, and talked to the pet store owner and said he hadn't said anything to me. Pet store owner said, well, said you have some stairs. Parrots like to move around, kind of like little professors when they're talking. And so she bought the stairs, put it in the cage, came back the second day and said, he still hasn't said much or anything to me. And the pet store owner said, oh, do you have a swing? So she bought the swing, came back the third day and said he still hadn't said anything. The pet store owner said, parrots have a high vanity quotient. You have a mirror. She bought the mirror and she came back the fourth day with a dead parrot. And she said he hardly said anything. He said just gurgled a little bit before he keeled over dead. The pet store owner said, well, what did it sound like? And she said, well, the best I could figure was, doesn't that store sell any food? Well, we can read the magazines and we can look at the pretty pictures. Be all enamored about the new technology and the light splashing on and off, and forget that agriculture is the basic infrastructure of society. Our responsibility is to produce the abundant source of an affordable, nutritious, and safe food. Grateful for what you do, for your tenacity and for your commitment and for your vision of what society needs. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Thank you. Dr. Huber, you really made our conference. It just, everybody is so full of information, awe, and fear and responsibility for their part to take ownership of children, grandchildren, and the earth, and that we are on the right track, and that it is worth doing, and it might be hard, but it's worth it. Thank you so much for taking time to come up here, and safe trip home, and we really appreciate everything you've done on behalf of the conference. You're going to need luggage.